Hey everyone, it's Paul from One Cast One Fish, and over the next few weeks we're going bow to stern, upgrading components and fixing a few things along the way to bring my 10-year-old Ranger boat into the modern fishing era. Let's head to the bow where we can discuss what kind of work we have upcoming in the next few weeks. Our first major job will be removing the Minn Kota Tarova with Universal Sonar 2 and installing the brand new Garmin Force trolling motor. One thing to keep in mind is that when we're upgrading this Tarova to the new Garmin Force, we did end up going down the proverbial rabbit hole. And as I started to read the specs on the Garmin Force, we started to find one thing after another that was also going to need to be replaced. Let's start right up here with the power plug. And that's because the original install only called for a 40 amp rated power plug, which means we'll be going over how to install the new Marinco 70 amp trolling motor plug and 70 amp trolling motor receptacle. First thing we'll notice, there's quite a size difference between these two plugs and definitely between these two receptacles, which means there's definitely going to be some cutting involved. But wait, that's not all. We also found Force specs require a 60 amp breaker, and unfortunately the currently installed is only rated for 50 amps. So another unexpected upgrade to support our upgrade. Now the one thing with this trolling motor upgrade we did get lucky for is the fact that all of our wiring on our batteries is already 6 gauge. The next major upgrade is the installation of the Garmin Echomap Ultra, which means I'll be removing this old Humminbird unit. And of course that doesn't come without its own headaches and problems. Because when we remove this Humminbird unit from the bow plate, it's going to leave a big hole right here that has to be filled. No big deal, right? Wrong. So I call Ranger to get a new replacement bow plate, and turns out because the boat's 10 years old, there is no new replacements. So that made me have to start thinking, how are we going to fix this problem? With a little ingenuity and DIY. Using a 1/2 inch piece of HDPE boat board. For this part of the install, we're going to be taking that old faceplate and we're going to trace it onto this board. I'm then going to cut it out and install everything onto this new board. And with that new 1/2 inch board installed, I'm hoping it's got the rigidity to be able to mount this Garmin fish finder right here on the bow. One big advantage with the Garmin Echomap Ultras is the ability to network all of my Echomap units together. So to be able to network and share information between the bow unit and the units that'll be mounted on the console, we have this 20-foot marine networking cable from Garmin. Now let's head to the console and talk about the next steps. Our first major console upgrade is going to be removing this Humminbird 1198C and replacing it with another Garmin Echomap Ultra. But we're not going to stop there. We're actually going to be adding another Garmin Echomap Ultra to the console here. And of course those units wouldn't be complete without being networked together. Like I told you, this isn't all about just strictly updates and modernization. There's a few repairs we need to make as well. One of those repairs is right here on the water pressure gauge, and as you can see, at some point the bezel broke. No worries, I was able to get a new one ordered and sent to me, so I'll be showing you how to do that install as well. One thing I liked about this boat is that it had factory installed LED lighting. However, with years of use and abuse, some of these LEDs just quit working. So as we work our way through the boat, we're going to be installing a few new LEDs. The next major upgrade takes us all the way to the back of the boat. We'll be removing both the old Humminbird side imaging transducer and the in-hull high-speed transducer. Let's talk transducers for a minute. The fish finders I got on Black Friday come with a GT54 transducer from Garmin. Now those GT54 transducers are side imaging, down imaging, and 2D sonar capable. And you get an extremely high quality image. Heck, it's the same transducer that's installed on the Garmin Force trolling motor. However, Garmin does have a GT56 transducer, which is supposed to give you an even clearer image when using that down imaging and side imaging sonar. So going in, I knew that these fish finders came with the GT54 transducer, which was no big deal to me. So I just intended to upgrade to the GT56 transducer, given all the money I saved on Black Friday for these 3 sonar units. Now the thing to keep in mind, I only need 1 transducer because all my units will be networked together. And the Garmin Force has a GT54 installed from the factory. And this is where it gets interesting. Because of the hull shape on my boat, I normally cannot get a high-speed reading from my transducer as far as depth when on plane. And there's a lot of people that have that same issue. So the simple solution is just install that in-hull transducer that I did with the Humminbird, and it's worked great. However, Garmin doesn't have that option of a Y connector available for a GT54 or even a GT56 transducer. You have to go a completely different route. And that's what I had to do. I went with the Garmin GT36 and GT15 Transducer Combo. Now, that gives me a GT36 transducer, which is essentially the same transducer as a GT56. However, it doesn't have the included 2D sonar. It's only the side imaging and down imaging portions. Then, the GT15, that'll be installed in the hull, and that'll give me my 2D sonar and my depth readings at speed. The good news is that all 3 units will be networked together, which means I'll be able to see the rear transducer, the in-hull transducer, or the trolling motor transducer from any unit on the boat. Phew, that's a lot of work we got planned for the next few weeks. So stay tuned and we'll see you next time on the water. Or in this case, in the garage.